The distress beacon cut through the void like a scream in the dark. Ambassador Talara's 4 delicate hands trembled as she recorded the message for the 3rd time, trying to keep her voice steady despite the explosions rocking her station. The Ravagers had broken through the outer defenses an hour ago, and now their ships circled the Luminar system like predators around wounded prey. This is Ambassador Talara of the Savathi, Confederation to our esteemed allies of the Gentle Compact. She spoke into the transmitter, her thin frame swaying as another blast shook the walls. We invoke the Treaty of Mutual Protection. The Ravager Horde has entered our system with hostile intent. They demand our surrender and the enslavement of our people. We require immediate assistance. Please, we need help. She encrypted the message with the Gentle Compact's codes and sent it streaking across space toward their territories. The Savathi had been part of the galactic community for 800 cycles. They were artists, philosophers, traders. War was something they studied in ancient history texts, not something that happened to civilized species. The Gentle Compact would send mediators, perhaps a peacekeeping force. There would be negotiations, treaties, proper diplomatic channels. Everything would follow protocol. Talara looked out the viewport at the burning wrecks of Savathi cargo ships drifting among the stars. The Ravagers didn't care about protocol. Across the galaxy, in a region of space most civilized species marked with warnings, the message arrived at a relay station on the edge of human territory. A navigation error, a damaged relay, a cosmic coincidence. The encryption was close enough to an old format that the human computers flagged it as a general distress call rather than a specific alliance request. Diana Ross had been reviewing supply reports when the alert came through. She read the message twice, then called her bridge officers to the command center. Her fleet of 15 warships had been conducting exercises near the frontier, testing new weapon systems and training crews. They were supposed to return to Earth space in 2 weeks. How far to this Luminar system? She asked her navigation officer. 4 days at maximum jump speed, Captain. But this message wasn't meant for us. It's encrypted with protocols we don't recognize. They're calling for someone called the Gentle Compact. Diana pulled up the star charts. The Luminar system wasn't in their territory, wasn't even close to human space. She had no orders to respond, no authorization to take her fleet into unknown regions. By all standard procedures, she should forward the message to Fleet Command and let them decide. How long before their actual allies can reach them? She asked. The communications officer ran the calculations. Based on known territories and jump routes, at least 2 weeks. Maybe 3. Diana looked at the message again. The desperation in that voice was universal, transcending species or language barriers. Someone was dying out there and help was too far away. Paul, get me Fleet Command, she said to her second officer. I need authorization for an emergency response operation. Commander Paul Grant raised an eyebrow but opened the channel. The response came back within an hour. Fleet Command denied the request. This wasn't humanity's fight. The aliens had their own alliances, their own protection. Earth couldn't afford to make enemies by interfering in other species' conflicts. Diana sat in her quarters that night, unable to sleep. She thought about the treaty Earth had signed when they first joined the galactic community 5 years ago. All those rules about respecting boundaries, following proper channels, not acting aggressively. Humanity was still on probation in the eyes of most advanced species. One wrong move and they'd be isolated again. But she also thought about that voice on the recording. The fear. The hope that help was coming. By morning, she'd made her decision. Set course for the Luminar system, she ordered. Maximum speed. All ships in formation. Paul looked at her with concern. Captain, Fleet Command explicitly denied authorization. If you do this, there will be consequences. There are always consequences, Paul. But I'd rather face a court-martial than live with knowing I could have helped and didn't. She turned to her crew. Anyone who wants to transfer to another ship before we jump, speak now. I won't hold it against you. This is my choice, not yours. Nobody moved. The crew had served with Diana for 3 years. They knew her, trusted her judgment. All ships report ready for jump, the navigation officer said. Then let's go answer a distress call, Diana said. Even if we weren't invited. The fleet vanished into jump space, leaving human territory behind. They had no idea what they were jumping into, what kind of enemy they'd face, or what these Savathi even looked like. All they knew was that someone needed help, and they had 4 days to figure out how to provide it. In the Luminar system, Talara watched another Savathi colony ship explode under Ravager fire. She clutched her hope like a lifeline, certain that any moment now the sleek diplomatic vessels of the Gentle Compact would arrive with their mediators and peacekeepers. They would make this right. They had to. She had no idea that something very different was coming instead. Warlord Drethik studied the holographic display of the Luminar system with satisfaction. 3 Savathi orbital stations destroyed, 2 colony worlds under siege, and their pathetic defense fleet scattered like dust in a storm. His Ravager horde had encountered no real resistance. These soft creatures had forgotten what it meant to fight for survival. His tactical officer approached, moving with the cautious gait all his subordinates used in his presence. Warlord were detecting new energy signatures at the system's edge. Unknown configuration. Drethik barely glanced at the data. More Savathi reinforcements? No, sir. The ships are different. Smaller than ours, but denser. Heavy armor plating. Unusual power signatures. The officer hesitated. Their broadcasting identification. Species designation, human. Origin, Sol system. I don't care if they're from the void itself, Drethik growled. If they interfere, destroy them. On the diplomatic station orbiting the Savathi homeworld, Tilara received an incoming transmission. Her hearts lifted. Finally, help had arrived. She activated the view screen, expecting to see the familiar, graceful features of a Gentle Compact ambassador. Instead, she saw a creature that made her recoil. The being had only 2 arms, bilateral symmetry, and strange fur only on the top of its head. Its skin was dark, its features sharp, and its eyes held an intensity that made Tilara's species instinctively recognize a predator. "This is Captain Diana Ross of the Earth Defense Fleet," the creature said. Its voice was deep, firm, and direct. "We received your distress call. What's your tactical situation?" Tilara struggled to find words. This wasn't protocol. There should be formal greetings, cultural exchanges, proper introductions. Forgive me, but you're not the Gentle Compact. Our message was encrypted specifically for our allies." "Your allies aren't here," Diana said flatly. "We are now. I need information. How many enemy ships? What are their capabilities? Where are your civilians concentrated?" "This is highly irregular," Tilara protested, her voice rising. "We have established procedures for first contact. There are cultural sensitivity protocols, diplomatic frameworks that must be observed before any military cooperation can. Ambassador, I mean no disrespect, but people are dying. We can exchange cultural databases after we deal with the immediate threat. Right now I need tactical data." Tilara felt her composure cracking. Everything about these humans was wrong. They'd arrived without invitation, without following proper channels. Their ships looked aggressive, brutal even, with none of the elegant curves and artistic flourishes that marked civilized vessels. And this captain spoke of violence as casually as Tilara might discuss art. "The Ravagers have 43 warships in system," Tilara said, her voice shaking. "They've destroyed our outer defenses. We sent for help 4 days ago. The Gentle Compact should arrive within 10 to 12 days. Perhaps you could help us negotiate until they arrive. Your presence might convince the Ravagers to accept a diplomatic solution." There was a long pause. Diana's expression shifted to something Tilara couldn't read. "Ambassador, we're not diplomats. We're a military fleet, and 12 days is too long. Then what do you propose?" "We fight them." Tilara's 4 hands clutched at each other in distress. "You have 15 ships. They have 43. This is suicide. Please wait for proper reinforcements. Wait for forces trained in peacekeeping operations." "We are the reinforcements," Diana said, "and we're out of time." Ross out, the transmission ended. Tilara immediately tried to call back, but the humans had cut communications. Through her viewport, she could see their fleet moving into attack formation. They were actually going to engage the Ravagers. 15 ships against 43. It was insane. "Get me Warlord Drethik," she said desperately to her communications officer. "Maybe we can negotiate a ceasefire before this catastrophe unfolds." Paul Grant stood beside Diana as they watched the tactical display. The Ravager fleet was massive, each ship bristling with weapons. By galactic standards, it was an overwhelming force. "They think we're crazy," Paul said quietly. "They're probably right," Diana admitted. "But we've faced worse odds in training simulations. Remember the Saturn defense drills? Those were simulations, Diana. This is real, which is why we can't afford to lose." She turned to her weapons officer. "What's the status on kinetic accelerators?" "Loaded and ready. nuclear payloads armed. All Marines are prepped for boarding operations if needed. Paul noticed the Scivathi had reopened a communication channel, probably listening to their preparations. He wondered what they thought of humanity's weapons. Most galactic species had moved beyond kinetic weapons and nuclear technology centuries ago, considering them barbaric. A new transmission came through, this time from the Ravagers. Drethic's face filled the screen, all ridges and scars and teeth. Unknown vessels, this is Warlord Drethic of the Ravager Horde. You are interfering in our conquest. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. Diana met his gaze without flinching. This is Captain Diana Ross. We're here at the request of the Scivathi Confederation. Your attack violates their sovereignty. Withdraw your forces, Drethic laughed, a harsh sound. You have 15 small ships. I have 43 warships and 10,000 warriors. Your species is unknown to me, which means you're weak. Last chance to flee. We're from a planet called Earth, Diana said calmly. And we don't flee. She cut the transmission and turned to her fleet. All ships, this is Ross. Engage at will. Target their command vessels first. Show them what Deathworlders can do. The human fleet accelerated toward the Ravager formation, and Talara watched in horror as the tiny force rushed toward certain destruction. She'd wanted help, but not like this. Not these strange, aggressive creatures who spoke of violence as easily as breathing. As the first shots were fired and shields flared in the darkness of space, Talara realized she might have just witnessed humanity's first contact with the greater galaxy. And it was happening at weapons range. The first human ship took fire from 3 Ravager cruisers simultaneously. Talara watched the tactical display with growing dread, waiting for the inevitable explosion. Instead, the human vessel rolled through the barrage, its shields flaring but holding, and returned fire with weapons that made her monitoring equipment scream warnings. Solid projectiles moving at significant fractions of light speed punched through Ravager shields like they weren't even there. The physics shouldn't have worked that way. Modern shields were designed to dissipate energy weapons, not stop kinetic impacts. One Ravager cruiser broke apart under the assault, its hull splitting open to vacuum. What are they using? Talara's tactical officer whispered, staring at the readings. Those are just chunks of metal. How is that so effective? Talara had no answer. She watched as another human ship, smaller than the Ravager vessels, accelerated directly toward an enemy dreadnought. Surely they weren't going to. The human ship rammed the Ravager at full speed. Both vessels erupted in fire and debris, but the Ravager dreadnought spun out of control, its power core destabilizing. The human crew had sacrificed themselves to take out a ship 10 times their size. It was insane. It was brutal. It was horrifyingly effective. They're not fighting like any species I've ever studied, Talara's security chief said. They're acting like predators. Not soldiers, predators. On Diana's command ship, alarms blared as another volley struck their port side. The ship shuddered, but the crew worked with practiced efficiency, rerouting power and returning fire without pause. We've lost the destroyer Defiance, Paul reported grimly. They took 6 Ravager ships with them before their core went critical. Diana's jaw tightened, but she didn't slow their assault. Mark their sacrifice. We'll honor them later. Right now we finish this. Target that carrier on the right flank. Prepare boarding parties. Boarding parties, Paul repeated. Captain, that vessel still has shields up. Then we'll breach them. Diana switched to fleet-wide communications. All Marines prepare for hostile boarding operations. We're taking that carrier. 3 human ships broke formation and accelerated toward the Ravager carrier. They took heavy fire, their shields failing one by one, but they didn't retreat. When they reached the carrier, they didn't ram it. Instead, they attached to its hull like parasites and began cutting through. Drethic watched this development with disbelief. They're boarding us? Without securing the vessel first? That's suicide. His tactical officer's expression was grim.
Warlord, they've breached decks 7 through 9.
They're fighting in sections we've already vented to space. They're not wearing environment suits, just armor. They're fighting in vacuum. That's impossible. No species can survive in vacuum. They're not surviving, sir. They're fighting, and they're winning. Inside the Ravager carrier, Sergeant Rita Hayes moved through corridors that had been exposed to space. Her armor's oxygen supply would last another 20 minutes, more than enough time. She and her squad encountered Ravager warriors who fought with weapons designed for enclosed spaces, not vacuum combat. The humans adapted instantly, using the environment as a weapon. Rita kicked off a wall, using zero gravity to her advantage, and fired her weapon at point-blank range. The Ravager went down. Her squad moved like they'd been born in space, though most of them had grown up breathing Earth's thick atmosphere. Compared to training in low-oxygen environments back home, this was just another exercise. Engineering section secured, she reported, planting charges on their reactor. Confirmed, came Paul's voice through her helmet comm. You have 4 minutes to evacuate before detonation. Understood. Squad, fall back to extraction point. They made it back to their boarding craft with 30 seconds to spare. As the ship pulled away, the carrier's reactor went critical, taking out 2 more Ravager vessels that had moved in to support it. Talara watched the battle unfold with a mixture of horror and fascination. The humans fought like nothing she'd ever seen. They used tactics that seemed reckless, even suicidal, but they worked. When their shields failed, they kept fighting. When their ships were damaged, they used them as weapons. When conventional approaches didn't work, they improvised with a creativity born of desperation. Ambassador. Incoming transmission from the humans, her communications officer said. Diana's face appeared on screen. Behind her, Talara could see crew members working frantically, damage reports scrolling across displays. The human captain looked tired but determined. Ambassador, we're pushing the Ravagers back, but we're taking losses. We need you to evacuate all civilians from the outer colonies to your homeworld. Can your people do that in the next 6 hours? 6 hours? That's barely enough time to— It's all the time we have, Diana interrupted. We're drawing their fleet away from your population centers, but we can't hold them forever. Get your people to safety. That's your job. Fighting is ours. The transmission ended before Talara could respond. She stood there, stunned by the casual authority in the human's voice. These creatures had arrived unasked, thrown themselves into a battle they had no obligation to fight, and now they were giving her orders. The terrible part was, they were right. Begin emergency evacuations, Talara ordered. All outer colonies, all orbital stations. Everyone moves to the homeworld now. As Sivathi transport ships began their desperate flight, Talara watched the ongoing battle. The human fleet had been reduced to 11 ships, but they'd destroyed or disabled 27 Ravager vessels. The mathematics didn't make sense. The humans shouldn't be winning, but they were. Drethik stared at his tactical display in growing rage, and though he would never admit it, fear. These humans fought like demons. They didn't retreat when damaged. They didn't surrender when outnumbered. They just kept coming, kept fighting, kept killing his warriors with methods that seemed to come from some ancient, brutal past. Pull back to defensive formation, he ordered. We regroup and overwhelm them with concentrated fire. His fleet obeyed, but the humans didn't give them time to organize. They pressed their advantage, targeting command ships and supply vessels, disrupting formations before they could solidify. It was like fighting a force that had no concept of mercy or restraint. For the first time in his long career of conquest, Warlord Drethik wondered if he'd made a terrible mistake coming to this system. The battle raged on through the night cycle, a dance of death and fire among the stars and somewhere in the chaos. Talara began to understand what the humans had tried to tell her. They weren't diplomats or peacekeepers. They were soldiers from a world that had forged them in conflict, shaped them through struggle. They were, in every sense of the word, warriors, and they'd come to her rescue. Rita Hayes sat in the ruins of what had once been a Sivathi government building, checking her ammunition. The Ravagers had landed ground forces on the colony world of Pavara, and human marines had deployed to stop them. Around her, the city burned. Sivathi civilians huddled in shelters below ground, too frightened to move. She heard movement in the rubble and raised her weapon, then lowered it when she saw 4 thin arms waving frantically. A Sivathi emerged from the debris covered in dust. It took Rita a moment to recognize Ambassador Talara. Don't shoot, please, I'm unarmed, Talara said, her voice shaking. What are you doing here? Rita asked, pulling Talara into cover as plasma fire streaked overhead. Civilians were supposed to evacuate. I was coordinating the evacuation when the Ravagers breached the spaceport. My transport was destroyed. I couldn't get out. Rita cursed under her breath and activated her comm. This is Hayes. I've got a stranded civilian requesting extraction. Negative on extraction, came the response. All dropships are engaged. You're on your own for the next 3 hours. Understood. Rita looked at Talara, who seemed ready to collapse. All right, Ambassador. Looks like you're stuck with me. Stay low, stay quiet, and do exactly what I say. For the next 2 hours, they moved through the destroyed city. Rita navigated the urban combat zone like she'd been born to it, and Talara followed, terrified but determined not to slow her down. They encountered Ravager patrols twice. The first time, Rita eliminated them with quick, precise shots that Talara barely saw. The second time, they hid in a collapsed building while a squad of Ravagers passed within meters of their position. During a quiet moment, sheltered in a basement while explosions rattled the structure above them, Talara finally spoke. "Why did you come here? To our system? You had no obligation to us." Rita checked her weapon, not looking up. "Someone asked for help. That's enough. But you're dying for strangers. For a species you'd never met before yesterday. That's not rational." "Probably not," Rita agreed. She pulled out a small device. What Talara would later learn was a photograph display. "This is my daughter. She's 7. And this is my husband. They're back on Earth, safe, probably asleep right now." Talara looked at the images. The small human child had the same features as Rita, the same eyes. "You have a family. Yet you fight in wars far from home." "I fight so my daughter never has to," Rita said simply. She put the device away. "Earth isn't like your world's ambassador. It's harsh, dangerous. Even now, with all our technology, people die from storms, earthquakes, diseases. We learned early that the universe doesn't care about us. We have to care about each other. But we're not your people. We're alien to you." Rita finally looked at her directly. "That child you helped out of the rubble 3 hours ago. Was she your daughter?" "No, but you helped her anyway. Because she needed help." "Same thing." Talara felt something shift in her understanding. These humans, these violent, aggressive creatures who fought with such terrible efficiency, weren't monsters. They were people shaped by a hostile world. People who'd learned that survival meant protecting each other, even strangers. An explosion rocked the building. Rita grabbed Talara and pulled her toward a back exit as the ceiling began to collapse. They emerged into an alley to find themselves face to face with a Ravager warrior, larger and more heavily armed than the others they'd encountered. Rita fired immediately, but the Ravager's shields held. It raised its weapon toward them, and Talara knew they were about to die. Then Rita did something unexpected. She charged. The human crashed into the Ravager with her full body weight, knocking it off balance. Her weapon was empty, so she used it as a club, striking with a ferocity that stunned Talara. The Ravager was stronger, but Rita fought like something wild, like the predator Talara had first thought her to be. When the Ravager's shield finally failed, Rita produced a blade from her armor and finished the fight in a way that made Talara look away. "Come on," Rita said, breathing hard. "Extraction point is 2 blocks north." They made it to the evacuation zone just as human dropships arrived. As they lifted off, Talara watched the burning city fall away below them. Rita sat beside her, cleaning blood off her armor with the same casual efficiency she did everything else. "Your people think we're barbarians, don't they?" Rita asked quietly. Talara considered lying, then decided these humans deserved honesty. "Yes, many do. They're probably right. But sometimes barbarians are useful." "You're not barbarians," Talara said, surprising herself. "You're survivors." "There's a difference," Rita smiled. The first genuine expression Talara had seen from her. "I'll take that as a compliment." Back on Diana's flagship, the situation remained dire. Medical Officer Ravi Singh worked tirelessly in the overflowing medical bay, treating wounded humans and Scivathi civilians alike. He'd studied xenobiology, but academic knowledge was different from practical application. The Scivathi had 4 hearts, 3 lungs, and a circulatory system that worked nothing like human physiology. "I need more plasma stabilizers," he called out to his staff. "And someone get me a translation for their medical database." "I can't read these labels." A Scivathi doctor approached hesitantly. She'd been treating civilians when the humans had brought in wounded from the battle. She'd watched Singh work with a dedication that transcended species boundaries. "I can help," she offered. "I speak your language." "A little." "Thank God," Singh said. "Talk me through their biology. What's critical, what's not. How their systems respond to trauma." They worked side by side for hours, human and Scivathi, saving lives together. Singh learned that the Scivathi were fragile by human standards. Their bodies adapted to peaceful worlds with gentle gravity. But they were also resilient in ways humans weren't, able to survive injuries through redundant systems. "Your people are so different from us," the Scivathi doctor said during a brief break. Yet you came to help. Differences don't matter much when someone's bleeding, Singh replied. Life is life. Paul Grant found Diana reviewing damage reports in her quarters. They'd been fighting for 15 hours straight. 9 of their 15 ships remained functional. Casualties were mounting, but the Savathi evacuation was nearly complete, and the Ravager fleet had been reduced to 12 vessels. We can't keep this up, Paul said bluntly. We're running low on ammunition, our crews are exhausted, and the Ravagers are regrouping for another assault. I know, Diana admitted. But we're almost there. The Savathi homeworld is secure. Most of their people are safe. We just need to hold a little longer. And then what? Even if we win here, Fleet Command will court-martial you for this unauthorized action. Diana smiled tiredly. Let them. These people needed help. We provided it. I'll face whatever consequences come. You're insane. You know that, right? Probably. But I'm in good company. She gestured to the view screen showing their remaining ships battered but still fighting. Every person in this fleet chose to be here. Nobody forced them. That counts for something. Paul couldn't argue with that. He returned to the bridge where the next wave of combat awaited. Tilara reached her homeworld safely and immediately worked to coordinate the remaining evacuations. But she couldn't stop thinking about Rita, about Singh, about all these humans who'd come unbidden to fight for strangers. They'd lost hundreds of their own people defending a species they didn't know, and they were still fighting. Drethic's remaining fleet gathered in high orbit above the Savathi homeworld, like a noose tightening around prey. His forces had been cut in half by these relentless humans, but he still had numerical advantage. 12 warships against the humans' 9. This would be the final battle, and he would win it through sheer overwhelming force. All vessels concentrate fire on their command ship, he ordered. Kill their leader and they'll break, but he didn't believe his own words anymore. He'd studied the humans' tactics throughout this brutal campaign. They didn't break. When their shields failed, they fought on. When their weapons ran dry, they improvised. When death seemed certain, they charged forward anyway. They were like a force of nature, unstoppable and terrible. His tactical officer approached with news that made Drethic's blood run cold. Warlord, we've intercepted human communications. They're discussing something called a planet killer weapon. They believe we have one. They're wrong. We have no such device. Actually, sir, we do. It was installed on your flagship 3 cycles ago. Emergency measure for situations exactly like this. Drethic stared at his officer. You're telling me I have a weapon capable of destroying an entire planet and nobody thought to mention this? It was classified above my clearance level, sir. But the humans somehow detected it. They're planning to prevent its use. A desperate plan formed in Drethic's mind. If he couldn't win through conventional warfare, he'd use the one weapon these humans couldn't counter. He'd destroy the Savathi homeworld. Either the humans would back off to save the civilians or they'd all die together. Either way, his pride would be salvaged. Activate the planet killer, he commanded. Target the Savathi homeworld. Begin charging sequence. On Diana's ship, alarms screamed as sensors detected the massive energy buildup on Drethic's flagship. Paul pulled up the analysis and his face went pale. Captain, they're charging some kind of planet-destroying weapon. Full power in 40 minutes. If that thing fires, the entire Savathi homeworld and everyone on it will be vaporized. Diana felt her heart sink. They'd fought so hard, lost so many people, saved so many civilians, and now this monster was going to destroy everything anyway. Can we destroy his ship before it fires? Not with conventional weapons. His flagship's shields are too strong. We'd need to get someone aboard to sabotage it from the inside. Then that's what we'll do. Diana opened fleet communications. All available volunteers for a suicide mission. Report to Hangar Bay 1. We're going to board that flagship and shut down their superweapon. Rita was still on the surface helping with civilian evacuation when the call came through. She didn't hesitate. She'd signed up to protect people and that mission wasn't over yet. I volunteer, she said immediately. Singh heard the call while treating wounded in medical. He wasn't a soldier, but he understood what was at stake. I'm coming too. You'll need someone with technical knowledge. Paul stood from his station. I'll lead the boarding party. Diana looked at her second in command, the man who'd been by her side through this entire impossible campaign. Paul, if you don't make it back, then someone else will finish the job. But we're ending this. Diana. One way or another. The boarding craft launched 20 minutes later with 40 Marines, including Rita, Paul, and Singh. They approached Drethic's flagship under cover of a coordinated assault from the remaining human ships, drawing defensive fire away from the small craft. The humans breached the hull through a damaged section, cutting their way into the massive vessel. Ravager defenders met them immediately, and the corridors became a nightmare of close combat. Rita fought at the front, clearing rooms with practiced efficiency. Singh stayed in the middle, analyzing the ship's systems through stolen data tablets, trying to locate the planet-killer weapon. "Engineering section, Deck 9, he shouted over the gunfire. That's where the weapon's core is located. They fought their way deeper into the ship, leaving a trail of bodies behind them. The Ravagers fought desperately, knowing the humans couldn't be allowed to reach the weapon. Casualties mounted on both sides. Rita took a plasma burn to her shoulder but kept fighting. Paul was knocked off his feet by an explosion but got back up, bleeding but determined. Talara watched from the surface, coordinating with Diana's fleet, tracking the boarding party's progress through intercepted communications. She felt helpless, knowing that human soldiers were dying right now to protect her world, her people. "Ambassador, the evacuation is complete," her aide reported. "All civilians are in shelters. If the worst happens, it won't happen," Talara said firmly. "The humans won't let it." She believed it because she'd seen what these people were capable of. She'd watched Rita fight a Ravager warrior with nothing but determination and a knife. She'd seen Singh work himself to exhaustion, saving both human and Scivathi lives. She'd witnessed Diana order her fleet into an impossible battle because it was the right thing to do. On Drethic's flagship, the boarding party reached the engineering section with 12 minutes to spare. But Drethic himself waited there with his elite guards, making a last stand at the weapons control console. "You can't stop this," Drethic snarled. "Your species will be remembered as the fools who died for nothing." Paul didn't waste breath on words. He signaled the attack and the final battle began. It was brutal and personal, fought at arm's length in the cramped engineering bay. Rita took down 2 guards before one of them got a lucky shot that dropped her. Singh dragged her to cover, trying to stop the bleeding while the fight raged around them. Paul faced Drethic directly, human against Ravager, and found himself outmatched. The warlord was stronger, more experienced, but Paul had something Drethic didn't: absolute conviction. He wasn't fighting for glory or conquest. He was fighting for the millions of innocent people on the planet below. When Drethic's blade came for his throat, Paul didn't try to block. He lunged inside the attack, accepting a glancing wound, and drove his own weapon into the warlord's chest. They fell together, but only Paul got back up. Singh reached the weapons control panel with 5 minutes on the countdown. The interface was alien, the systems unfamiliar. He started pulling out components at random, shutting down subsystems, desperately trying to find the core that powered the planet killer. "I can't read this," he muttered. "I need more time." Rita, bleeding and barely conscious, pulled herself up beside him. With shaking hands, she helped him work, following his instructions even though she didn't understand what they were doing. 3 minutes. 2 minutes. 1 minute. Singh found the power coupling and ripped it out with his bare hands, ignoring the feedback that burned his palms. The countdown stopped at 43 seconds. The weapon was dead. They'd done it. Diana watched the energy readings drop on Drethic's flagship and allowed herself to breathe for the first time in an hour. The boarding party had succeeded. The superweapon was neutralized. "All ships, final assault," she ordered. "Target that flagship. End this." The remaining human vessels converged on Drethic's ship, pouring everything they had into its shields. The barriers failed and kinetic rounds tore through the hull. The flagship began to break apart, but not before the boarding party evacuated through the same breach they'd used to enter. The escape craft limped back to Diana's ship, with 23 survivors out of 40 who'd gone aboard. Paul was among them, as were Singh and Rita. They'd paid a terrible price, but they'd saved an entire world. Below, on the Scivathi homeworld, millions of people emerged from shelters to see the burning wreckage of the Ravager flagship, falling through their atmosphere like a meteor. The battle was over. They'd survived, and they owed it all to a species they'd never met before, one that had answered a call meant for someone else. The diplomatic vessel from the Gentle Compact arrived 12 days after Tilara's original distress call, exactly when predicted. Its elegant hull gleamed in the light of the Luminar system's sun, unmarked by battle. The ambassadors aboard expected to find a situation requiring careful negotiation and measured peacekeeping forces. Instead, they found wreckage. 43 destroyed Ravager warships drifted in various orbits, along with the remains of 6 human vessels. The Sivathi homeworld was scarred but intact, its population alive and recovering, and in orbit, 9 battered human ships kept watch like guard dogs protecting their charges. Ambassador Kelvin of the Gentle Compact materialized on Talara's diplomatic station, his holographic form projecting disappointment and confusion. His species, the Valoria, were considered the galaxy's finest mediators. They'd never failed to resolve a conflict through peaceful means. Ambassador Talara, we came as quickly as possible, Kelvin said, his melodious voice tinged with concern, though it appears we're no longer needed. What happened here? Talara gestured to the observation viewport where the human fleet was visible. They happened. Species designation, human, origin Sol system. They received our distress call by mistake and responded. By mistake? Kelvin's form flickered with what might have been alarm. And they engaged in military action without proper authorization or understanding of galactic protocols? They saved us, Talara said quietly. The Ravagers were destroying our colonies. Your arrival was still days away. The humans came and they fought. Many of them died protecting people they'd never met. How barbaric, Kelvin said, and Talara felt a flash of anger at his tone. Surely there were diplomatic solutions. The Ravagers could have been negotiated with, proper terms arranged. This massacre was unnecessary. The Ravagers were going to use a planet-killer weapon on my homeworld, Talara said coldly. Negotiation wasn't an option. The humans understood that. Still, their methods saved millions of lives. My people are alive because these barbarians were willing to do what was necessary. Kelvin studied her carefully. You've changed, Ambassador. The Talara I knew would have agreed with me. What did these humans do to you? They showed me what real courage looks like. What sacrifice means. She turned to face him directly. Will you help them now? They need medical supplies, repair materials. Many are injured. The Gentle Compact cannot be seen endorsing such violent tactics. We have protocols. Your protocols would have left my people dead or enslaved. I'll remember that. The transmission ended with Kelvin's holographic form fading in confused silence. Talara immediately opened a channel to Diana's ship. Diana appeared on screen looking exhausted. Behind her, crew members worked to repair damaged systems. Her uniform was torn and medical dressing covered burns on her arm. Ambassador, Diana said. Your official allies arrived, I see. We'll begin preparations to depart once we've completed basic repairs. Wait, Talara said quickly. Captain Ross, I need to ask you something. Why did you really come? Not the official answer about responding to distress calls. The real reason. Diana was quiet for a moment. 5 years ago, Earth made first contact with the galactic community. We were told we needed to be civilized, follow the rules, not act aggressively. We tried, we really did. But then your message came through and I heard someone asking for help that wasn't going to arrive in time. She leaned forward, and Talara saw the weight of command in her eyes. I thought about all the times in human history when help didn't come. When people suffered because others chose not to get involved, chose to follow protocols instead of doing what was right. I didn't want to be that person. My crew didn't want to be those people. So we came. You'll face punishment for this, won't you? From your own government? Probably. But that's tomorrow's problem. Today your people are safe. That's enough. Talara made a decision. I'm addressing the Gentle Compact Council tomorrow. They want to report on what happened here. I'd like you to attend. Will you? Diana smiled wearily. Ambassador, I'm not much for diplomatic proceedings. I know. That's exactly why I want you there. The Galactic Council convened the following day in neutral space. Representatives from dozens of species gathered to discuss the incident in the Luminar system. The hall was magnificent, designed to inspire awe and promote peaceful discussion. Every detail spoke of civilization, refinement, millennia of peaceful coexistence. Diana felt completely out of place. She stood before the assembled species in her dress uniform, which bore the scars and stains of recent combat, despite her crew's best efforts to clean it. Beside her, Paul and Rita stood at attention. They'd all been granted temporary diplomatic status for this hearing. Kelvin presented the Gentle Compact's findings first. describing the unfortunate incident where an unknown aggressive species had engaged in excessive military action that resulted in unprecedented casualties. He carefully avoided mentioning that those casualties were mostly among the Ravagers, or that the Scivathi were still alive because of human intervention. Then Talara spoke. "Esteemed members of the council," she began, her 4 hands clasped in the traditional gesture of sincerity. "3 weeks ago, my people faced extinction. The Ravager horde was destroying our worlds, enslaving our people. We called for help from our allies, the Gentle Compact. That help would have arrived too late." She gestured to Diana and her crew. "But these humans answered instead. They came from across the galaxy, risking their lives for strangers. They lost hundreds of their people protecting mine. They asked for nothing in return. And when it was over, they prepared to leave quietly, expecting no gratitude, no reward. Their methods were brutal," another ambassador interjected. "They violated numerous articles of the Galactic Warfare Convention." "Their methods were effective," Talara countered. "The Ravagers used weapons banned by those same conventions. They planned to destroy an entire planet. Tell me, would your conventions have saved my world? Would your protocols have stopped a planet-killer weapon?" Silence filled the chamber. "The humans are survivors from a world that tried to kill them every day of their evolution," Talara continued. "They learned to fight, to endure, to protect each other at any cost. Yes, they're aggressive. Yes, they're violent. But they're also brave, compassionate, and willing to risk everything for people they've never met. Can any other species in this chamber claim the same?" Diana shifted uncomfortably. She hadn't expected Talara to defend them so passionately. Kelvin spoke again, his tone measured. "Ambassador Talara, we understand you're grateful, but we cannot simply ignore the precedent this sets. If we allow species to engage in unauthorized military actions, then maybe more people will survive when they need help," Diana interrupted. Every head turned toward her. "With respect, Ambassador Kelvin, I don't care about your precedents. I don't care about your protocols. I care that innocent people were dying and we had the power to stop it. So we did." "You could have waited for proper authorization," Kelvin said. "And how many Scivathi would have died while we waited? How many children? How many families? Some sacrifices are necessary for the greater good of galactic order." Diana's expression hardened. "That's easy to say when you're not the one being sacrificed." The chamber erupted in discussion, some species appalled by Diana's bluntness, others nodding in agreement. Talara watched it unfold with satisfaction. The humans had done what she couldn't. They'd forced the Gentle Compact to confront the limitations of their peaceful philosophy. The debate continued for hours. Finally, a vote was called. Should humanity be censured for their actions, or should they be recognized as a legitimate military force in the galaxy? The vote was split almost evenly, but in the end, the Scivathi delegation cast the deciding vote. They chose recognition. "The Scivathi Confederation formally requests an alliance with Earth," Talara announced. "Not with the Gentle Compact, but with the humans who answered our call when no one else would." The implications rippled through the chamber. A formal alliance meant trade agreements, mutual defense pacts, cultural exchange. It meant humanity would have a foothold in galactic politics, whether the established powers liked it or not. Diana accepted with a simple nod. "We'd be honored." After the hearing, as Diana prepared to return to her ship, Talara found her in a corridor. "Captain Ross, I wanted to thank you personally. For everything. You already thanked us in there. Pretty dramatically, I might add." Talara's equivalent of a smile crossed her features. "I meant what I said. Your people saved mine. That's not something we'll forget. We were just doing our job." "No, you were doing what was right. There's a difference." Talara handed her a data device. "Before you leave, I thought you should know. 6 more distress calls have reached Earth space in the past 3 days. Species under attack, colonies in danger, people needing help that won't arrive in time through official channels." Diana looked at the device, then at Talara. "You're giving us these on purpose. Someone has to answer them. Your Gentle Compact friends won't, but you will." Talara placed one of her hands on Diana's shoulder. "The galaxy needs Deathworlders, Captain Ross. It just doesn't know it yet." Paul and Rita joined Diana as they boarded the shuttle back to their ship. The fleet was ready to depart, repairs completed, supplies restocked with Scivathi assistance. "So what do we do about those distress calls?" Paul asked. Diana thought about the crew members they'd lost, the price they'd paid. She thought about the Sivathi civilians they'd saved, the grateful faces she'd seen on the planet below. She thought about that first message from Tilara, desperate and afraid, calling for help that wasn't coming. "We answer them," she said simply. "One at a time. That's what we do." The human fleet left the Luminar system 3 days later. Behind them, the Sivathi began rebuilding, stronger now, aware that the galaxy wasn't as safe as they'd believed. And ahead, across the vast darkness of space, other voices called out for help. The Deathworlders were listening, and they would answer.